Greetings, citizen. My name is FailureToReport. I make videos about Star Citizen because I need to make truckloads of money. Watch for me on the Forbes Top 40 any year now. YOLO dab dab. So today we're going to be talking preemptively about Star Citizen 3.8. Why, you might be asking? Because I've seen a lot of people discussing the coming patch since 3.8 hit Evocati NDA testing thanks to the ever-reliable Star Citizen leaks community. Like, CIG, tell me, does it feel pointless yet having the non-disclosure on ETF? You know, since it's the most open development ever and all that. Now, before anybody starts asking, but why are you talking about this patch before it's even on the public test server this time, Failure? Because I can. If you aren't on other channels crying about them making 20 videos about the upcoming patch, which we both know you aren't, then the only reason you would really object is because it's me, and you're probably pretty sure I'm going to say mean things and not fap to every bullet point in the patch notes. But yeah, I'm totally the biased one in Star Citizen's community. Now, since most aspects of 3.8 have been leaked in one form or another, from MicroTech and its sprawling landscapes, to the weather effects added in slightly early in a slightly dumbed down state compared to what we saw at CitizenCon, to even the Crusader Ares, I've seen a lot of hype coming out of the backer community, which honestly is understandable. Star Citizen lives in a pretty reliable cycle. A year will start off with lots of promises from Cloud Imperium, in recent years accompanied by a roadmap promising new content, gameplay, features, and of course shippies. The following months are usually some under-delivering patches that have a lion's share of the promised content delayed, removed, or rescheduled. And by year's end, the backers are getting rabid with disappointment in Cloud Imperium. But alas, here comes CitizenCon, where Cloud Imperium shows off fancy new demos that wow the community with shinies and promises that next year is gonna be different. They're gonna hit their targets. They're gonna be really major additions, or that Cloud Imperium learned some lesson from the previous year, be it communication, under supporting a game mode, Arena Commander, Star Marine. And then the backers giddily bounce away from CitizenCon, having their faith utterly infused with certainty that insert new year is gonna be the year. Only for the cycle to start all over again once the next year starts rolling out. Now look, you might think I'm overly negative or have some kind of hate boner for Star Citizen, but honestly, I promise I'm more tired of talking about the constant letdowns and fumblings from Cloud Imperium than those of you who hate me and are disappointed every time you see a new FTR video. The thing is, everything I'm saying is documented history in the saga that is Star Citizen. You can not like it, that's fine. I'm not telling you to lose your faith, to drive to Cali and mob Chris Roberts. The only thing I do with this channel is highlight things that CIG does that are either scummy or things within Star Citizen that are disappointing, be it quality of content, lack of content, missed deadlines, or subjectively poor game design choices. While you can absolutely disagree with the things I say that are opinion-based, like the heat mechanic in quantum travel is just as bad as the interdiction mechanic, as they add absolutely nothing to gameplay besides a time sink. Hey, maybe you like having your time wasted when playing a game. There's room for opinion in my stance on that mechanic. I will never agree with you, but I can't call you wrong because you like it. When you come over to Failure Land and you say, oh, Star Citizen is progressing at blitzkrieg pace now, there's so much content, I'm going to call you out on it because it's factually and historically wrong. We still have not received the full contents of the promised Star Citizen 3.0 patch over 2 years ago. That isn't an opinion, it isn't me trying to sabotage your dream of the game, it's just stating fact. The point I'm driving at here is that when something is a letdown within the project, I generally talk about it. And when something is really positive within the project, I talk about that as well. There are many instances of this in my past videos, from urging people to give the game another look when client-side OCS came out, to backpatting CIG for implementation of the ship customization tool. The problem some people seem to have is that I don't jump up and down like a giddy schoolgirl when the patch notes say something like, spawning your ship should no longer kill you. I don't find this remarkable. It's an expected gameplay result that I shouldn't die when I spawn my ship. But then, a lot of people also take issue when I don't blow my load over stuff like added ArcCorp and Area 18, because frankly, I don't find it that critical to Star Citizen. I've kind of gone over ArtCorp many times, but to give some perspective, there are many backers who openly mock Cyberpunk 2077 with comments like, "That game doesn't hold a candle to Star Citizen. We have an entire city planet." Okay, no you don't. You have a city planet backdrop where the actual playable interactive space is smaller than a Call of Duty map. That's why I don't drop my pants, bend over, and wave my wallet about frantically when things like this are added. What are you getting at? Sorry, I'm a stickler about context, and I know it can be drawn out to some of you viewers, especially anybody who's a frequenter of the channel, but it saves me having to answer and repeat the same thing a dozen times in the comment section, so when I go on about a random tangent, that's almost always the reason. So why I'm preempting comments about negativity and all that crap is because I'm going to talk some negative stuff about 3.8 and MicroTech, because frankly, everybody is running wild on SitCon High, and I feel like this isn't really being brought up anywhere right now. Now, from the get-go, I want to say that MicroTech looks amazing from the SC leaks that we've seen so far. I was literally just talking about how I really want CIG to do more with planetary environments than just slapping desert brown or moon gray on everything. Yeah, Hurston has some plains and small tree forests, but it's really an ugly planet despite having a few biomes besides corporate space trash. I absolutely hope to see more planets coming to Star Citizen with the same shit. There goes my fat YouTube check. The same eye candy levels as MicroTech because it makes the game so much more pleasurable to look at. My issue with MicroTech and 3.8 isn't about how it looks or that CIG is putting out an early version of the weather systems that are more static than dynamic versus waiting until a later patch to properly implement them, at least according to the SC Leaks Discord. It's that Star Citizen is getting another ArtCorp, another Hurston. MicroTech will land within Star Citizen 3.8 and add absolutely nothing to the overall gameplay of Star Citizen outside of a new, much prettier looking backdrop for backers to spam the SC subreddit with screenshots and eye candy. Insert brace yourself meme image here. While a pretty new backdrop helps the backers who already love imagining their own gameplay in an empty sandbox, it doesn't really do anything for the overall state of Star Citizen. And I personally find it really disappointing we are getting another milestone patch closing out another year with Star Citizen hosting these massive planetary bodies with nothing really on them. In the last 2 years or so, I've compared Star Citizen to Elite Dangerous on a few occasions. Not because I'm some massive Elite fan, I'm not, but because it's really the only comparable space game to Star Citizen. There have been a lot of commenters over the years who have brought up EVE Online as a comparable game, but I think EVE is just a completely different type of game where the only really relatable stuff is that they're both in space, have PvP, and some minor mechanic similarities. Where Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen are both space games where you manually pilot a ship, have or are supposed to have vast solar systems with planets you can land on and so forth. As a result, when I look at Star Citizen's planetary content, it seems like a no-brainer for somebody who has played a fair amount of both games to compare this common element. And doing so is one of the biggest reasons I'm constantly perplexed when Star Citizen backers try to insist that so much content is there. In fact, there have been multiple comments on this channel from different users over the years insisting that Star Citizen has the largest scale of any game ever made and more playable space than anyone will make for years to come. Like, okay, sure. Let's pretend No Man's Sky, Elite Dangerous, and many other space games don't exist, I guess. I mean, if it helps your argument. But you know what? That's a whole different rabbit hole. The point here is that one of the biggest reasons I don't go so hype-crazed and praise Cloud Imperium when they add planets like Hurston, ArtCorp, and soon MicroTech is because after playing Elite Dangerous, I just kind of expect more out of CIG with these bodies. For anybody who hasn't played Star Citizen at all, or perhaps in some time, all of their planets and moons can be summed up as large open and empty landscapes with a few developer-placed points of interest, and these points of interest are almost all small proc-gen outposts that serve literally zero purpose outside of spawning ground vehicles to go off exploring the vast empty, or to turn in boxes and buy trade goods from a terminal. Boom. Planet content summary complete. Star Citizen is like some kind of weird phenomenon in the gaming industry. I can't even begin to recount the variety of issues that Star Citizen or Cloud Imperium does something, and any other game would be ridiculed or criticized to hell and back for. Case in point, there are no shortage of Star Citizen backers who will defend the game to the death with claims that it has so much content, but at the drop of a hat go to battle to tell you and the entire world how shallow and empty Elite Dangerous is, despite the fact that outside of getting out of your ship, Elite Dangerous just factually has more content and game systems. This is the biggest reason I'm bothered by MicroTech. While Elite Dangerous has yet to implement planets with atmosphere, I don't think that really matters because nobody really cared that Star Citizen didn't have them either at first, until they did and suddenly it was, oh, but look what we have! So, aside from being able to take off your helmet and run around in a large empty area, the other major difference between the two games' planetary gameplay is that Elite Dangerous has billions of planets, and the vast majority inside civilized space are procedurally generated with content for the exploring player to come across, from pirate outposts, mining, salvage, rescue missions, and more. While there isn't any mind-numbing depth to these mechanics, it helps the planets not feel like lonely, empty, dead rocks where Star Citizen planets are literally just vast oceans of empty. So while some backers are losing their minds over pictures of Tony Z in front of a whiteboard with crap about AI written on it, annoyingly including bits about bartender AI, it's easy to feel like Cloud Imperium's directors are kind of out of touch with what they should be focusing on to make their game feel like, well, a game. And not just an empty sandbox where you make your own gameplay in your head. Having some sort of actual life on the planets would do wonders for making these giant balls of rock that CIG and some backers are so ready to brag about feel like they're more than just screensaver backdrops. And it's for that reason I'm really disappointed with MicroTech that it's coming to Star Citizen as just another generic eye candy and imagination tease. Chris Roberts and company have frequently talked up how insanely in-depth their AI will be, how their environments will feel alive even when there are no other players around. Yet this many years into development, it's really troubling that they still haven't done anything to justify landing on planets outside of going, look, totally not faked, from planet to space, no loading screens. Okay. I'm not saying it doesn't look pretty or anything like that, but what's your point? What is the reason for ground vehicles in Star Citizen besides ridiculous player antics for the sake of finding something to do? There aren't caches of equipment you can come across in some random bandit camp. There isn't salvage you can chance upon and score some gear or credits. There's just lots of empty and imagination. Now, for the sake of appeasing people who are usually grumpy when I say mean things, I want to reiterate some things I said in my last video. 3.8 as an overall patch is bringing a lot of major quality of life things to Star Citizen. Notably, server-side OCS, being able to choose your initial starting spawn point, improved AI ship collision avoidance, thank fucking Roberts, multi-crew mining thanks to the new Argo Mole, camera look ahead sounds kinda interesting for piloting on planet surfaces, melee combat, which even if it looks heavily ripped off from Kingdom Come, it's still something new to mess around with. And there's plenty in this patch that honestly does sound interesting, but outside of server-side OCS, most of it just feels like fluff that doesn't really add much to what is already there. And that's a big part of why when these patches come around, I'm much more reserved in putting the effort into backpatting CIG compared to some other channels you guys are probably more normally frequenting. While I am genuinely excited to knock Move Speed out or knife him in the back, to get some tiny measure of revenge for the literal dozens of times he has killed me by simply walking into me in Star Citizen because ground movement is so janky and desynced. The brawling is something I look at kind of the same way as FPS mining. It's neat, but it feels more like a distraction from all the things that were promised and slated to be on the roadmap, which constantly disappear or get pushed right a year or more. I'd also like to point out that this isn't some kind of corporate journalism channel. I am first and foremost a backer. The fact that I make videos covering the project is absolutely secondary to that. So when I see things like prison gameplay come sliding in like the cringy dude at the bar who thinks every girl there is dripping over his pickups, it bothers me because All I see is another boring, time sink, and poorly thought out gameplay mechanic tossed to the front of the line over roadmap features the game has been literally waiting years for, like refueling, salvaging, or repair, and so on. So, in summary, to Cloud Imperium, you guys have made some strides towards the overall playability of Star Citizen in 2019. Ship rentals were a major bump in credibility in my eyes. Having all of the loadouts be part of an insurance claim while the game is in alpha was a massive headache cure, especially with how unstable the client and servers can be. The promise of persistence in the near future would alleviate one of my biggest and longest standing complaints about the game. So going forward, I would really love to see you guys make some more focused effort in making Planet gameplay actually matter. It's one of your most talked up features that players can travel to all of these bodies, but you seem to just kind of casually gloss over the fact that there's really nothing on them and nothing to really do there. So please, rectify this in 2020. I will gladly pat your back and celebrate it alongside all of your usual fans. To the backers, I understand that right now is the high point in Star Citizen dopamine drip, and while I'm not trying to derail people from riding their high out, I would ask that going forward into 2020, expect more. We've had years of Cloud Imperium drastically dropping the ball on almost every area of the project, and the fact of the matter is, Cloud Imperium isn't just going to change on its own. I think one of the most memorable quotes of CitizenCon 2019 was Sean Tracy talking about their new Battlefield clone mode, which I promise I'll get into that one in the future. But essentially, he talks about how CIG realizes they've dropped the ball in supporting Arena Commander and Star Marine, and with this new mode, they're going to change that. I had a really good laugh at that because any serious Arena Commander fan, yes, they do exist, will definitely remember the countless times Cloud Imperium has been on stream or dev posts on Spectrum saying something along the lines of, "We realize we've neglected Arena Commander and we're gonna fix that." You know what makes Chris and Cloud Imperium change? Community feedback and criticism. So with 2020 fast approaching, my request to backers would be, expect more from Cloud Imperium. You are not going to collapse Star Citizen by offering up critical opinions. On that, I can absolutely promise you. With that, Star Citizen 3.8 is poised to hit public test servers very soon. Possibly, like literally the morning after this video. Word is CIG is currently feeling out a release candidate of the ETF build, and it would make sense since they plan on selling the new Ares Crusader tomorrow, as well as the Mole later this month. And frankly, I would just love to see them get a milestone build out before they go on Christmas break for once, so that major game-breaking issues with the build can hopefully get hotfixed. This will also mean that we actually get to pour over all of the new 3.8 shiny ourselves here relatively soon, including the new 890 jump raid mission. And knowing how flawlessly CIG usually implements these heroic/legendary missions, I'm sure that good times are going to be had. Well, that's this video. I know there are a lot of people who usually take issue with me spending the first part of a video addressing the community or talking about things that don't really pertain to a video title. So I'm putting it on the back end of this one. So now those of you who don't want to hear it aren't forced to listen to it. You're welcome, no big deal. So I wanted to take a minute to talk about the last video I put out addressing the Star Citizen community, as well as talk about some changes that are going to be happening with this channel. First and foremost, I'm sure some disgruntled channel hate boner boy is already going on about how I'm making a Star Citizen video after saying that I was taking a break. For once, he's technically not wrong. I am. To be totally upfront, I wanted to make some changes in how I cover this game. Over the last few years since I've become more critical of Star Citizen, I've spent a lot of time arguing with idiots. I'm not talking about the fans of the game. There are many instances of people who are very passionate about Star Citizen braving my channel's comments to talk about a feature they think is good or offering criticism about myself or how I make content. I'm almost always receptive to these people, with the exceptions being 1. People who come in and immediately start off with some sort of insult, and then when I reply in kind, they act like I tossed their precious fluffy kitten into the wood chipper. Like, how dare Failure talk that way? You can't call me a paint chip eating retard just because I said you're a piece of shit and you don't understand game development. Well, actually I can. This isn't a job. I'm not standing at the checkout of Kohl's where I need to put up with your shit. And when these comments come around, they are almost always entirely focused on me because addressing my points that I made in the video about the game would end up in a loss for them, and that just can't happen. So they dodge and make it about me instead. Number 2, the other type of people who come into the comments that I take issue with are the people who want to project a completely revisionist history of the project. You know, the guys who want to say things like, "It's always been a life simulator," or "Cloud Imperium didn't really start development until X year," or the tried and true, "Well, they switched engines and this was a really major undertaking for them, so a delayed X feature." All of these things are easily proved wrong by citing CIG materials. But these guys feel the compulsion to flail shit at the wall, hoping that something sticks, so whatever mean thing I said about the dream is a little less hurtful. In the past years, I've handled these things in 2 different ways. With the first group, I'm more than happy to meet a comment with the same attitude it came prancing into the comment section with. If a person wanted to stop by and call me whatever, I'd be happy to respond in kind. Hey, I get to call some idiots from Spectrum names that I'm not allowed to call them over there, and every time they respond it just pushes my video metrics to promote it to even more people, which means the message gets seen by even more people. So I win either way. With the second group, there was a time when I would see these comments and feel obligated to correct them. Way back in FTR times, I would even bother pulling out the sources to go, "Look, you're a moron. Stop trying to reimagine Star Citizen's history." I don't, for instance, mind somebody coming to the channel and saying, "I dropped 50K, I love Star Citizen exactly as it is, and I've definitely gotten my money's worth out of it already." Because it's his opinion. I can and almost certainly disagree with those people on a lot of aspects, but they aren't factually wrong. In most cases, those same people follow up these kind of comments with, "Hey, I don't always agree with you or like what you say, but I can see an issue with X," and we can have a conversation out of their comment. My last video, however, I mentioned that I was done with Star Citizen's community and I was going to be taking a break. I put this section before the actual content covering CitizenCon, knowing full well it was going to trigger every window licker who stalks my channel to vent their stupid anytime I upload anything Star Citizen related. The reason for this is that going forward, I'm going to do something with this channel that I normally don't do, and that's blocking people from the channel. I've come out really hard against censorship in this project for years now, and this was something I honestly struggled with a lot over the last few months because, frankly, this project is just utterly infested with toxic idiocy, and having a channel covering Star Citizen means I see it every single day. I want to apologize for not being more open and kind of being a little deceptive shit with the last video, because while I'm still going to be covering Star Citizen for milestone patches and major events, I'm also going to be removing people from the channel who come into the comments that fit either of those 2 groups I previously mentioned. If you want to comment on a video I upload telling me that I'm wrong about X feature or you really love Prison Drop the Soap gameplay, that's fine. I'm very unlikely to agree with you, but I'm not opposed to different opinions or corrections if I post something that's wrong. Since it's a fairly fresh example, in the community and sitcom video, I moaned about the spacesuits and needing a new type of suit for cold environments despite already having suits and armor that are fit for the cold EVA of space. I have lost track at this point how many people chimed in to correct me, and while I still think it's kind of absurd from a gameplay perspective, I was factually wrong. And I thanked one of the first people who corrected me, who said something along the lines of, "I'm sorry and don't take this the wrong way or personal, but you're wrong, etc. science." Because I would rather be corrected and then be right than be wrong so I can have some sort of ignorant mental victory where I refuse to admit defeat. If you've been on this channel for any amount of time, I can almost guarantee you've seen me say the same expression more or less many times about Star Citizen, saying that I welcome the day that Cloud Imperium makes me eat my criticisms about the game, because I would much rather be proven wrong than be right and have another space game fail to deliver. So the point I'm getting at here is, I guess I want to apologize to those of you who are regular viewers. I understand it was kind of baity to throw up a ruse.
Wait a minute, is this a ruse? Because if it is, pretty elaborate.
But after finally deciding that I was tired of internet slap fighting morons and correcting people, I just kind of wanted to get a head start on cleaning up the channel, and I knew that segment would draw them out, which it did in droves. I went from having, I think, around 8 people blocked, almost all of which were for saying racist or homophobic crap, to a few dozen. While it honestly bugs me censoring people on this channel, because one of the biggest things I wanted for this channel was to be a place that you could speak your mind on the project regardless of being a hardcore believer or a heavy critic, I felt it was still possible to keep that intact while filtering out comments that add nothing to the video but trying to insult me and never even touching the topic of the video. For those of you who are still madly in love with Star Citizen, or maybe you have a closet shrine to Chris Roberts, I promise you can still post here freely about how much you love the game. I'm not going to ban you because you like Star Citizen. For those of you who hate Star Citizen and don't believe a word out of Chris's mouth, same promise. But if you come here just to talk random shit about me because I say mean words about the project and your only response is about me because you lack the ability to think out a counter argument, or the only thing you have to say is something about how Sandy is a hoe, I'm just done with these kind of comments on this channel. I understand that some people might disagree with this new approach, and I totally understand. Censorship is a really tricky subject, and while I criticize Cloud Imperium for their overzealous use of its suppressing criticism on the official platforms, you can ask a few channel regulars who are in the Discord that there have been multiple times somebody has come to me asking me to do a video on CIG's moderator actions because they were banned for insert offense, and after looking at it, I completely understood why CIG did it. While too much moderation is absolutely not a good thing, none at all is clearly just as bad. Anyways, that's my soapbox time for this video. As always, I am Failure to Report. Stay safe out there, citizens, and I will see you all on MicroTech.